It's July 19th, 2024, and I'm with Mr. John J. Jeckovich, and we're reading his book, Their Mother's Sons. We're on page 286, chapter 10, Snow Bunkers and Panzers.
No what?
Snow Bunkers and Panzers. Would you like to read, or want me to continue?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
What's your dog tag number?
420965.
I was thankful no one in the squad was a heavy snorer. I do not know what I would have done if they had been. It was snowing lightly, and their sleeping bodies were soon covered with a fine white film. I was rubbing my feet together, trying to get the blood circulating more briskly. I kept checking for the frostbite, but was fortunate enough in that respect. I was not that cold, huddled up in a GI wooden blanket. I guess one gets used to the weather after a while. As I sat there rubbing my feet and looking about, mostly listening, I thought of many things. I thought of Fink and the time we were at the dance when he wanted Gene and me to accompany his friend and him to the local pub. I felt bad now that I had refused him, and I wondered what his friend was doing now. She would never know what happened to him. It all seemed like a million years ago. I then thought of Jean, of how she looked that night of the dance, and how proud I was to have escorted her. I wondered what she was doing at this exact moment. I thought of Anne and our last weekend together, and how I had messed up considerably by not knowing my true feelings about her. I would have done some things differently from what I have done at the time. I wondered how now in retrospect, how she put up with me in immature behavior. I also thought about her having forgotten and replaced me with someone more mature and inner-directed. Just then I heard God bless you. Just then I heard a twig snap, and I quickly flattened on my stomach, clutching my M1. As I took the safety off, I was hoping the rest of the squad had sense enough to lie still and not jump in. Sure enough, it was a segment of the same parachute divisions, the 5th, on their way to Wiltz. They must have gotten lost and veered off into the southern direction. There were 25 or 30 of them, a short distance from where we were resting. I held my breath as they passed. They were far enough on the right that they could see our forms lying in the snow. Had they had another 20 feet closer, we would have stumbled over us. I lay still as the last of them passed. I did not move until I was sure that there were no more behind them. I got up quickly and gathered the men together and moved them out. Most of them had heard the Germans and were holding their breath until they were gone. As the paratroopers came from the east, I decided our best bet was to head west, away from their line of march. We silently departed the area, crouching as we did, as not to make the least possible target and movement. I was getting lighter by the minute, and I was hoping that we would come upon one of our units. As we trudged through the snow, I kept looking for fresh tracks before falling snow covered them. I knew we were leaving a trail, but could not be helped. We must have covered several miles since our encounter with the paratroopers. We were still going west, and I sure would come up on one of our units. The snow had stopped, but it was still bitterly cold. Gray winter day. We stopped for a break as usual, and there were no open fires. Hello. Have a nice evening. There are no open fires. Despite our wet clothes and our cold bodies, we ate K-rations breakfast and had a couple of swallows of water from our canteens. After about, Jen, help me.
Okay.
Yeah, how you doing today? You having a good day? Yes, sir.
Hi. Oh, okay. Yeah, John, he's saluting you.
Right.
He's saluting you, honey.
John,
Hi. Hi. How you doing?
Thank you, Mr. Estes.
Take care now.
All right.
Want to give a hand there?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care now.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
Sure.
we have 118 residents.
Yes.
I'm the only Marine.
Wow.
Most of the residents are there, are used, and all the Marines are just a department of the Navy.
No.
And they are right, it is.
Oh, it is.
And I tell you, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Oh.
That's funny. That's funny.
Take care. Good night.
Take care. Are you causing trouble again? All right. Here we go. Go
We
ahead.
came upon the clearing, a short stop of it until we could determine what was ahead. I told everyone to put and lie low until I returned. I then headed for the tree line and circled around the clearing to see what was on the back of the side of it, thinking there might be a roadblock in the vicinity manned by a heavy 30 or machine pistols. I cautiously maneuvered around the clearing. As I peered through the high hedges, I saw what appeared to be a small village nestled between a grove of pine trees. With the clearing to the front getting closer, I could not determine who was occupying it. This might be a break, and we were hoping for finding a friendly unit, an American, of course, and finally getting the chance to change clothes and some hot chow and a warm place to get some needed sleep. Maybe it was too much to ask for. As I got closer, I could hear some movement and of the generator of some kind. I crept closer and made several white stars on a dozen of military vehicles. A glimmer of hope stirred within me. Perhaps we had gotten lucky. I got closer to make out the unit designation on the bumper of the vehicles. It read 447th AAA. It was an anti-aircraft battery. The next obvious question was, were they captured vehicles or were they American? I saw no personnel about, and I stayed low for a while, waiting for someone to come by. I did not have to wait long. Two soldiers were approaching the Jeep. As they came closer, they looked American. All I wanted to hear was them speak. Suddenly, one of them spoke. Hell, we gotta move on. This makes the 5th time in many days. I got up and walked toward them, grinning from ear to ear. They stopped short in their tracks and aimed their carbines at me. I raised my arms and muttered, "Take it easy. We're GIs, lost and hungry." One of them said, "Prove it." I showed them my dog tags and told them that we came from Wiltz. Both of them explained that Wiltz has been taken by Germans several days ago. I replied, yes, we were told to evacuate at that time. They felt confident I was not a German and invited me to their makeshift mess hall. I told them I had a squad of hungry GIs out in the woods and asked if it would be okay to bring them in. They said it was okay bringing them in. When I was told that we had once come upon an American outfit, they were jubilant and relieved. We must have looked like a tattered bunch of GIs, but they seemed accustomed as of late to see many soldiers reaching their lines in the condition which presented. The CO Major came over to us. We were eating our first hot meal in several weeks, and we wanted to know more about Wiltz. I told them that I knew an experience, and they seemed to satisfy them. Hello. I told them to mention that we're pulling out of here and that we're low on ammunition. He also said that he would try to get in touch with our outfit and find out what our orders were. I told him we appreciated the hot meal and extra clothing. He patted me on the back and told me to take care. I found out the name of the village we were at. It was called Holdingen, roughly 15 miles southeast of Wiltz. As we gathered our equipment, we're still within our crew weapon, I thought just as well it would only slow us down. The sergeant came up and relayed a message from the CO. We were to hitch a ride with them as far as Folsom and then wait for transportation, if there was any available. Our division was forming along the Earth River about 25 to 30 miles north of here. I was not too keen on riding in open trucks with all the Germans around us, and especially a convoy this size. I had seen too many motor convoys torn apart by mortar and machine gun fire. I told the squad that this is the first opportunity we had. We would ditch the convoy and go out on our own again. We would attach ourselves to another unit and stay still in the fight. They all agreed. As we boarded the 6x6s, we took positions in the rear of the trucks. At an outpost southeast of the crossroads, we have passed small arms fire broke out, and some of the fleeing soldiers shouted out that there are German paratroopers all over here, just looking for a fight. I told the squad to get ready, that we're leaving shortly. They checked their weapons in preparation for our departure. Minutes? You want to get the mail?
Yeah. 16.
The fight at the crossroads was intensifying, with paratroopers firing their burp guns and machine pistols. The concentration of fire was spirited and powerful. As it swept the men off their 6x6s, over there. It's over there, on his wrist.
Oh, John, let me have the keys.
Huh?
I'm gonna go check the mail.
I told the squad to get ready. There were paratroopers coming up in a draw. I opened up my M1 on two paratroopers 20 yards ahead, and being staggered, and they dropped to the deep snow. Lape was firing his 45, was not hitting anything. So Lape was determined to use his pistol in this fight. Lape was using his 45. Lape was using his 45 pistol at the German paratroopers, and you were using a carbine, right?
Yeah.
Is a 45 pistol very effective in the woods?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was not hitting anything.
Huh?
He was not hitting anything with the 45.
Yeah. What the hell's doing with the pistol? What is this carbine?
I don't know. Some of the men were hit, and I got to see two of them go down, with severe head wounds. I motioned for the rest of the squad to get out of the ditches and into the woods. I saw a major AAA outfit take a direct hit to the face, and he went down, covering the snow as a bright red. I slipped and slid up the embankments, which was sheer ice. As I came to the crest, there was a young paratrooper grinning at me, his machine gun pistol aimed menacingly at me. I was caught flat-footed. No way would I have enough time to bring my rifle up to fire at him. I could feel the rounds from his machine pistol shattering my flesh, and I cringed at the thought of it. He quickly dropped his machine pistol to his side and motioned me in the woods. I thought, hell, I'm captured, and I'm a PW. I turned to look back. He was gone. Confused and very much relieved, I ran into the woods. Would you want to tell us how that happened?
What?
You were in this little battle going on right now, and some young soldier had you in his sights. You're very close to him, and what happened there?
What, with him?
Yeah.
Oh, he got killed.
No, the German soldier had you in his sights, and he basically smiled and went away, hit one way, and you went the other way.
Yeah, he had the door on me, yeah.
And then tell us
He
how that,
smiled at me, turned around and went back.
but at that time you thought you were going to be a PW.
Yeah.
Yeah. Late in what was left of the squad were in the tree line. They had seen what happened at the embankment. They told me that I was a goner, or at least a prisoner. They said a paratrooper just turned and went to rejoin his outfit without ever once looking back. I collected my thoughts, and I put another clip in my chamber of my N1. I told the squad to hightail it out of here. We just started to clear the area when two paratroopers came out of nowhere. They were bearing down on Leip and me. I tried frantically to drive the bolt home. It was jammed with snow and ice. And as they came closer, still not firing, I heard a pistol, a rapid succession of shots. Both paratroopers fell to the snow, mortally wounded. The firing came from two members of the squad. Luckily, they had spotted the paratroopers bearing down on us and opened fire. I waved in appreciation and was thankful for them being around. I fumed at Leip, angrily telling him to get rid of that damn .45 pistol and pick up a carbine or an M1. He made me all the more irritated by stating that it was easier to carry around. I dismissed the entire episode and began once again to give the thought to more important events. So Leip wanted just to carry the pistol around, huh?
Yeah.
So Leip wanted just to carry the pistol around.
Yeah.
He says it was easy to carry.
Yeah. Well, that's what he knew about it.
I looked about. There was still firing going on at the crossroads, and I could hear the explosions of the 6x6s as their gas tanks became ignited. We had lost several more men from the squad and were down to Leip, the two ammo bearers who saved my life and me. I could hear the screams and the moans of the wounded at the crossroads and in the ditches. The wounded would be rounded up and with luck sweat out the war in a PW camp. Our best bet was to depart the area, keep a watchful eye for more paratroopers. We headed south once again, going deeper into the snow-covered woods, trying to put some distance, much distance as possible, between us and the crossroads. I told Leip, the two ammo bearers, to stand their toes and be quiet as possible, and look for our patrols and gun emplacements. I kept telling myself over and over, head away from Bastogne, for that is where the entire German army is heading. We avoided roads and villages. The roads were mined and the villages could be occupied with Germans. We trekked through the waist-deep snow, cold ice-covered streams, underbrush, and over barbed wire fences and stone walls. Whenever we would stop to rest, we drifted off to sleep, only to wake up with the start of expecting to be surrounded by Germans and trembling from the ice cold. Our water had given out, and we were drinking from cold ice-crusted streams. At dusk, we came upon another small village. Because we had not eaten all day, I told the trio, Lape and 2 ammo bearers, that I would go into the village when it was dark and see if we could find some food.
No mail.
They were to stay put, but stay alert. I did not get back in a reasonable time. They were to take off. As darkness approached, I hid in a haystack, more for warmth than concealment, and told them to stay alert. I would be back shortly. I followed the ley-lying stone wall and traversed the length of the village. Everything seemed quiet except for the occasional dog barking. I made my way down a narrow street carved out of the snow with banks of snow on each side of it, and finally stopped at a small farmhouse. I peered into a low-lying window and first saw nothing. As my eyes got accustomed to the dim light inside, I saw a figure near the fireplace. It was half dozing off, and it reminded me of Jean's father.
8 minutes.
I tapped on the window gently, and figured immediately jumped up. He saw me looking in and quickly came to the door. I slipped inside and asked him, haltingly, if he had any food. I motioned my fingers to my mouth, and he understood what I was trying to say. He smiled and looked about for anyone to accompany me. I put my fingers indicating 4 people, and he understood. When I asked him if there were any German soldiers around, he stated to wave his arms about and spoke rapidly in spurts. What I could make out of this was they had been here in the next village, but they all cleared out several weeks ago. His gesturing and rapid speech made me a little uneasy, but I would still return with the men. As we left the cottage, my suspicion was aroused. I thought of something Jean's father and I discussed one evening after listening to the BBC. It had to do with Belgians who lived on the border of Belgium and Germany, and how the borderland ceded to Belgium after World War I. How many of these natives still cherished their alliance to Germany and were still sullen and stoic towards the Americans. This entire area was particularly object of our concern. I took a good look around the collection of drab houses, shops, and stretching almost the length of a ridge line which made up the village. I could not detect any sense of anything amiss, so I went ahead where I had left, what remained of the squad. I hope I was not leading everyone into an ambush, but I felt to take the chance. We had not eaten all day and were soaked to the skin. It was imperative that we get something warm, somewhere warm and dry out. As I walked back through the field, throughout it, there were dead cows with their legs upstretched, killed by mines or artillery fire. I reached the haystack and everyone was sound asleep. So much for being alert. I woke them up and told them the situation and my apprehension regarding the civilians. Then they were not impressed, and they were looking forward to warmth and something to eat. We then followed the path I had along the stone wall. When we were near the cottage, Lape and one of the ammo barrels circled around the cottage, and I had another ammo barrel center right. We would meet at the rear, and if everything else was all right, we'd go in. We did not find anything. We knocked gently on the door, It was immediately opened by the same person. The first thing that struck us was the smell of freshly brewed coffee. Minutes. His wife had prepared some of the food for us. 4? The bread, butter, jam, and coffee had sent out on a large wooden table in the kitchen. I went over to the single window and drew the thick, heavy drape over the window. There was a roaring fire in the fireplace, and we took turns drying our clothes. This was beyond our expectations. I cautioned them that we could not linger here too long, and we must move on. We had no security out, or our luck could change at any moment. They understood. An hour later, with the food in our stomachs and the warmth of the fire heating our bodies, we thanked the kind-hearted Belgians for the hospitality and set it out again. It was still dark and starting to snow. I tried to get my bearings, hoping that I did not get turned around. We avoided the roads and the villages, but kept them in sight as a reference. It was quiet, but not too quiet. As we waded through the deep snow, I became more and more uneasy. First of all, I did not know for sure where we were, which has always bothered me. Secondly, we were exhausted and needed time to rest. Thirdly, what were we to do at daylight? I thought perhaps we should have stayed at the Belgian's cottage, gotten a good night's sleep, and became fairly fresh in the morning. At least we would have a roof over our heads at a time. I called a halt and everyone dropped in their footsteps. They were totally worn out and needed rest. The only thing I could think of was to gather some branches and make some sort of bed out of them. Using our blanket rolls, I would take the first watch while they got some sleep, then wake up, and then when I got some sleep. As they settled down for such much needed rest, I ate the remains of the K rations I have saved for about my next move. We should rest here for several hours and move out. Getting about 3 hours of walking in daylight, preferred before daylight. During the daylight hours, we should stay put. After catnapping on several hours, as I was getting chilled, I woke up the men and said they were moving out. They grumbled a bit, but started to stow their bedrolls. I was deciding which way to go, wishing I had a compass and a map, but quickly dismissed the thought and moved out. We had gone about 20 yards when we got into a briar patch that played havoc with our clothing and tore at our skin. After much floundering around, we managed to extricate ourselves, but it was taking its toll on us and our clothing. We stopped for a while to soothe out the torn skin with snow and remove many prickers from our clothes. Minutes?
1 minute, 22 seconds. 1:22.
Daylight was approaching, and we began to look for a secluded spot to build a makeshift hideaway out of tree limbs and boughs. We spent the next hour making the large lean-to and camouflaging it so it would not be noticeable from any direction. It was still snowing, and in a few hours the lean-to would be covered with snow and blending into the landscape. We posted a guard out in front, but still inside, out of the wind and the snow, with instructions it got relieved in 2 hours. I wrapped myself in the blanket, covered up my head, and fell asleep. I was awakened by Wape telling me that it was my turn to take guard. I reluctantly moved to the front of the lean-to, taking my blanket with me. It was daylight, but the dingy outside, and I thought how strange that was there's no stray animals about, at least a deer or raccoon. I looked at my watch. It was past 1200 hours, and it could not be dark for another 5 hours. Just as well. We needed a rest and give an opportunity to figure out our next move.
All right.
We're gonna take a